Welcome back. The last video we installed the inner rocker box panel, and I've already installed the outer rocker box here. I didn't quite leave you out because I still got the right side to do over there, but I've been busy with all kinds of stuff. We're right in the middle of the old COVID coma here. And when the boy comes home, we try to get out here, steal a little time out here in the shop and get to work. But he's back in school now, so it'll just be me out here in the shop, and I could do a little bit more taping and videoing and get you guys back in the loop. Spent a good bit of time trying to get these aftermarket rocker box panels to fit, and I'll take you over on the other side and show you what was involved with the right side. All right, we're over on the right hand side of the truck looking at the rocker panel, and I can tell you these rocker panels have been extremely difficult to fit. Part of the problem was initially I had ordered new rocker panels from, well, I don't know where I ordered them from. That's not helping you guys out much, is it? But they didn't fit. They were, if you can see, all this scuff mark that's going on right here is the door. Front end of the door dragging on this area. So I scratched my head for a long time and wound up ordering another set. I was getting ready to do some major surgery on these and cut them apart and then bend them the way I needed them to fit and then welding them back together, and I was dreading that. And I wound up, they're not super expensive. I think they're about 29 bucks a piece, but I noticed that the left side fit better than the right side, and somehow I had ordered two different brands. So the left side was an AMD, and which I think is it's a Tri-Plus part, and it obviously comes out of a different mold, different die. If you see this lip right here is, let me see if I can get it in frame better. It's about a 90 degree, not quite a 90 degree here. So the door gap, if the door gap's right and the door pivots open, it's not dragging. Hopefully it's not going to drag on this edge right here. If I pull the other one up, all right, just about impossible for me to set those up so you can see those angles. But this is the tri-ply one from AMD, and you can see that this angle here with the proper door gap, when the door swings open, it's gonna hopefully stay clear of this radius in here. This one did not. When you set proper door gap and then swing it around, the corner of the door would just dig into this, dig into the radius. So I adjusted and tweaked, and I don't know how many days or how many hours I spent on trying to get that worked out and just could not. And then somehow figured out, hey, I'm going to order another one of these and see what happens. And this one seems to be fitting a lot better. Now, there were still some issues in the back of the truck here with these new quarter panels, the bedsides, and let me get set up and I'll show you those. All right, so both the rocker panels had the same issue on the aft end of it. So I figured it wasn't a rocker panel problem, it was a position of the rear bedside here. And again, I wound up messing with this for a long time, had to pull the bedside back off the truck and actually cut the supports that attach the bedside to the side of the truck here and shorten those by about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch, to get this rocker panel to line up with the bedside. And that joint is decent. There's still some issues there. I'm not real crazy about this gap right in here. It's not real even. It's not extremely wide, but I've had to manipulate it as well. It was a lot wider than that. This gap here was pretty wide. I wound up trimming this back and actually cutting a part off the other rocker panel and tacking it on there, welding it on there, and then blending it out. So I've got this acceptable right now, but not perfect by any means. These rocker panels are difficult. They're they're not for it's not a one-day job to change these things out. It takes some time, but got this one fitting pretty good now. I'm going to drill some holes in it, so run some plug welds in it, some along the top here, down the side, and a few up front as well to get it tied into the A-pillar. And along the bottom of it, where the pinch weld is, on the left side, I wound up bringing my spot welder over and spot welding that pinch weld together. Probably 20 spots underneath there to try to get a good weld on it, and tried to leave the heat on it for a long time. Top up here along this edge, I didn't put any welds in it. I've got the assembly manual for this truck now. Let me grab it, we'll take a look at it. All right, you can see assembly manual does a pretty good job of telling you where they put all their spot welds when they were putting the truck together originally. And on the left-hand side of the truck, I pretty much followed along with what they did. And obviously they're using a big machine to spot weld these together, and we're drilling holes and plug welding. But I tried to mimic what they did as close as possible, and it worked out well. But you can see they didn't add any welds along this lip right here, and I didn't either. I did put a nice bead of seam sealer there, and then slid the rocker panel on, and I did treat the back side of the rocker panel very well. A couple coats of paint and some undercoating in there. So I'll do the same: seam sealer, plug welds front and back, and then spot weld along the bottom, and that should be good. Here's this book. This has been very helpful. Factory assembly instruction manual. Got it off the interweb. I think it was about 45 bucks. I wish I'd have bought it earlier, because it has some great information in here. When we were back straightening the frame, I wish I'd have had all this information available back then. I had bits and pieces of it. I recognized some of these charts that I got from the internet from somebody else that posted them. But man, this thing is a wealth of information for sure. All right, I got the holes drilled where I want them for the plug welds, and well, actually I'm on both ends. And now I'm going to kind of treat the inside of this rocker panel so it never ever rust again, and nobody else will have to go through this again. You can see that I ground off the paint. This has got POR 15 on it, this inner rocker panel, and the other side, obviously we changed. This side was in pretty good shape. I installed the scuppers like I did on the other side. I did it a little bit different on this side just because I didn't know what I was doing. I was figuring it out on this side, but still very good drainage over here, so none of the dirt and grime and water will be forming inside this channel here between the floor pan and the door seal, and nothing inside of the rocker panel should build up. There's plenty of drainage in these. But between, well, where these bare spots are where I'm going to use the pinch welder or the spot welder to weld those together. And I've peeled off the paint on the inside of this inner rocker, and I'll tape it up before I add a couple of coats of paint to the inside and some undercoating. Once we get this thing all welded together, spot welded, and all the plug welds done, and this will all be welded along the top where so we can ferret it all in and make it look nice. Once that gets all done, we'll come in the front of this rocker panel through this hole right here, this 1-inch hole. I've got a deal set up with a long nozzle to just flood this bottom with undercoating to let it just soak into this joint right here, and hopefully kind of flush it all out, or ferret it all out nice and smooth, so no more water will get trapped in this seam right here. That's my hope. It seemed to work pretty good on the left side. All right, getting ready to put this rocker box on, and the process we took this inner rocker box plate through was wire wheeled and sanded and POR'd. There's a coat of metal etching primer on it, and then some, it's called bed liner, a Rust-Oleum product, and then on top of that is undercoating. And same up here, I treated this with the metal etching primer and then the bed liner and undercoating. And the same in here. This has got that, what is it, EDP, the electro distributed primer from, the manufacturer, TriPlus. And then cleaned up, scuffed up, bed liner, and then a couple of coats of undercoating as well. So this looks good. Hopefully it'll stay on and last a long time. I've used this undercoating stuff, it never really seems to get really hard, and it works pretty good around these areas where we're going to weld. I've had the opportunity to kind of to weld it and then take it back apart and find out that it kind of melts around where you're welding, but it doesn't all just go away. So I think it's gonna leave it fairly well protected around those welds. So back on you go, and we'll clamp it on down and get to the process of cleaning out these holes. I take my burr. You can't see any of that, can you? Let's get you up there. I'll take my burr on my die grinder and clean out these holes so we can get some penetration in there with the welder. All right, the spot welds are all done, and as you can see, this thing fits pretty good. Actually, really good. You saw me as we spot weld in here, kind of tap around as the metal is nice and warm, and kind of snug it up nice and tight to the A-pillar here. You can see the weld where I changed the lower part of this A-pillar. It was all rotted out at the bottom, and didn't do a great job of grinding this weld completely off. I just didn't really see the necessity of doing that, and we actually may smooth it up here a little bit more, because the next step is for me to just spot weld along this edge to kind of blend this piece of metal, the rocker box, into the pillar, and I'll do it all the way around the corner, and we're probably going to have to create a little bit of a filler piece to bridge this gap here. Be a little bit tricky probably in this corner. This rocker box has been changed once before, and I think they well, I know they brazed it in, because you can see remnants of the brazing right here, and it looks like they used the pointy end of a body hammer to really whack away right in there and created a little bit of a divot there. We can fill that up with weld and smooth it out, blend it out. But that remnants of brazing rod might give us a little bit of a hard time as we weld that. I looked at the other side. I couldn't remember, but I stopped that process right here, right past the corner, and did not continue, to blend or to weld this edge and then blend it in on this side. It doesn't really, we don't need to. It's nice and tight. Put some seam sealer in there to keep it from wicking moisture up underneath it. You can't really see the front side of the A-pillar, and it would certainly be very difficult to get in there and blend that out. It could be done, but there's really no need. We've got a spot weld here, and if you look at the assembly manual, they didn't do any more than that. I think there's 1 or 2 spot welds right in here, so they certainly didn't even seam this edge here or weld this edge, and so we're going to pick up some more strength in that process as well. All right, as we suspected, oops, I forgot to fill that little void there. We'll get it, but as we suspected, you can see the white soot coming off here when we hit that brazing rod. It tended to have a little bit of a fit there, is what it did, but I think it'll be fine. We'll get in here with a grinder and smooth all that out. And clean it up, go back over it if there's any more voids in it. But hey, a little tip here, I like to take my cutoff wheel, which it's pretty easy to control, and just knock the tops of these welds off, and it does a pretty good job of getting in here and getting it close. Once I get it close to being flush, then I come back over with a flapper wheel and smooth it, blend it, and then kind of finish it off with my 90-degree die grinder here and several different grits of sandpaper. Usually start off with something like a 40 grit and wind up down to I don't know what this is. It's probably still fairly coarse. Well, it doesn't say, but anyways, that does a pretty good job, and then we can come back with a palm sander, a DA, and get it really smooth. All right, with it cleaned up a little bit, you can still see there's some low spots in here. Obviously, right in here, we'll put a few more spot welds in here, fill this void, and then this lull right in here we'll put a few spots in, keep blending this up, as well as this corner, and all along in here the same deal. You can still see some brazing in here. It's going to throw a fit as we it's going to protest as we weld right in here, but we'll get through it. And then I cut a little bit of a piece here, a little filler piece, and it looks a little bit rough here on the edge, but I'll tack it, and then I'll be able to manipulate this edge a little bit better, and then just some spot welds along the bottom and the top edge, and it'll blend out nicely. All right, there's after blending of round 2, and you can see we're making progress here. Probably do a little bit down in here, another tap or 2, and one there as well, and then maybe a few across the bottom here, and a couple here along the top edge of that weld, and build up this corner a little bit more, this outer corner. And then we still have quite a bit to do inside of this radius here. This did protest a whole lot when I hit that bronze. I think most of it's gone now. We've burned most of it out, but we're gonna we'll put a few more along the bottom here, a few more on the top, same along here. This went really well. We got a nice good filler piece in there, got a few more dabs to do along there, and some more blending to do. You just got to kind of take your time with the blending so you don't wind up making any of this metal too thin. You don't want to grind out too much and make it too thin. That's why I like using that cutoff wheel to get in here. You can really pinpoint where you're grinding, just the top of these welds and not into the base metal. It doesn't take much with a flapper wheel, and you're wearing this so thin. You know, you're either grinding holes in it, or next time you hit it with the welder, it just blows right through. So be real careful on the base metal. So let's go round 3. All right, you can see where we're making progress here. This is looking pretty good. A few more here. I don't think I'll mess with any of the rest of it. Just a few more dabs here, and then we've got quite a bit to do here. We're obviously making headway with it, but you gotta just take your time and layer after layer, or fill in these little divots, and then be careful while you're grinding. Don't take too much base metal, and add some more. You don't want to just keep grinding this down until this valley is gone, because then the base metal is going to be too thin. So if you remember, there was quite a divot right in here. So we're actually looking pretty good. This is almost filled up, and it's difficult to get into this radius with the sander. So I'm just having to take my time and use my flapper wheel, and it just being real careful not to get too much on this base metal. When it starts sanding away right here, it's time to stop, add some more, and then go at it. Now, is all this necessary? I don't know. A little bit of mud in there, very little bit of mud, and then some sanding would smooth that right out, and probably be just fine. But hey, well, what's the fun in that? We'll keep beating our head against the wall here. All right, well, I think that's all I'm going to do to it. I think it's close enough, and it's going to take a little bit of mud to smooth that out, but I'm not going to mess with it anymore. I tried to get it all perfectly smooth, and I think I did on the other side. But it's too risky to keep, building it up and then grinding it down and building up, grind it down. You wind up with a mess if you don't leave well enough alone. So got the same to do on the back side. It's going to take a filler piece in here as well. And then I'm not sure exactly how to handle this, but this face right here is quite a bit higher than this face. This joggle that they stamped in this sheet metal is quite a bit thicker than it needs to be, or more of a joggle than it needs to be. So I'm not sure exactly how to deal with that, but quite likely it's going to take a little bit of filler in here to fare that out as well. Matter of fact, I probably won't manipulate it too much. Just grind these welds down, smooth them up, put a filler piece in here, and smooth that all out the best I can, and then just plan on putting a nice skim coat of mud in there to fare it out. All right, we got that all filled and faired, and not perfect, but quick thin coat of filler will make it nice. It created a little bit of a bump here just because of the difference in the height of the skin, but like I said, a little bit of fairing compound, a little Bondo, I think is gonna square that away and look pretty decent. So now we're gonna turn our attention to the lower pinch weld here. We've got, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 spots that need to be spot welded together. And I used my Harbor Freight spot welder on the other side, and it seemed to work pretty well. Now, when I dragged it off the welding bench over there, I noticed that the tips for it were looking pretty rough. Let's see, there we go. They're copper, and they were getting pretty big in diameter, kind of mushroomed, even a little bit pitted there in the center. So I chucked them up on the lathe and was going to just put an edge on them, and boy, that did not work. I was trying to ease into it, and it just ripped it right out of the chuck, and not once but twice. So you can buy these things, and I think I will buy some more tips, but I had some brass stock, and so I just chucked that up in the lathe and made a couple of bronze ones. So we're gonna give this a whirl, see if see if it works. It's certainly a lot harder than the copper. We'll see if it makes a good pinch weld or not. All right, right here where we have the spot welder clamped on, there's only 2 thicknesses of metal that we're spot welding together: the outer rocker box and the inner rocker box panel. They cut notches in, it's actually the rocker box itself, before they attach the inner rocker box or that rocker box panel on. So you're not trying to spot weld 3 pieces together. So everything's bare metal here, and it fits nice and tight. So let's give it a whirl here. All right, that seemed to do good. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah. Let's see. If I get you wheeled in there. All right, what do you think? Just like factory, huh? All right, well, we're gonna do, what did I say? There was 10 of those, 9 more, I guess. All right, guys, it's done. All spot welded, and The I don't know that these tips did any better. About, I don't know, 7 or 8 welds into it, they started to spark and carry on. I let it cool down for a while and actually bumped a grinder up to them, kind of trued them up a little bit, and then finished up with them. But those copper ones last a good bit longer before they start to fail. So harder is not better. But hey, I'm glad to have this part of the project done. These rocker panels are a significant job. They're not easy. So you can do it. Everybody can do it. Just take your time and work your way through. But I'm glad they're done for me. Thanks for watching.